First round, round one, 7-minute round.
Oh, let me take this backdrop off real quick. Let me turn this around real quick. All right.
Are
So
you
we're gonna
ready?
get here. Hold on 1 second. We're gonna get to this this shit going. All right. Can y'all still hear me if it's like this?
Oh yeah.
All right, bet. All right, I'm ready.
All right. Let's get it.
All right. The opening Salvador, the burden of proof. We begin with the test of material evidence, right? So again, like I said before in the beginning, we're going to have to use some historical models for this, right? And so the model that I'm going to be using today is the historical model acknowledged by all. This model that I'm using today is acknowledged by all credible scholars today, historians, anthropologists, right? And scholars, right? All right. So the argument of the missing CEO. Let us use an analogy. Imagine a man today claims he's a brilliant CEO who brought the Empire State Building. He claims to have fired 500 employees, met with the president. He reshaped the skyline. But when you check the IRS records, the property deeds, the bank statements, and the White House visitor logs, his name is nowhere. However, you find receipts of the hot dog vendor who stands outside the building. Who is real? The vendor or the CEO? Right? The evidence of the trivial, right? So let's get into all of this, right? For the first round. All right. So the stopping question here is, where is the invoice for Abraham's army? Right? So we know when we go back, right? We know he's going to try to go back to the 2500s and things of that nature, but we know we have empires that spanned it from the Bronze Age, right? Let's keep going. All right. The patriarchs are archaeologically invisible. This is said by William G. Denver, right? The leading scholars agree. Israel Frankenstein, who did excavations at Tel Aviv University, right? Thomas L. Thompson, University of Cambridge. They all agree that the patriarchs are invisible, right? So let's get to this real quick. How much time I got? 4:35. All right. So let's see what these scholars say real quick. Dr. William G. Denver, right? Professor of University of Arizona, leading Syro-Paleolitician, right? And he's an archaeologist. After a century of excavative, right, investigations, all reputable archaeologists have given up hope of recovering any contacts that would make Abraham, Isaac, or Jacob, Eber, or Moses credible historian figures. We have searched the dirt for 100 years. Listen to that. We have searched the dirt for 100 years. We have found the villages. We have found the pottery. We have found the destructional layers, but the patriarchs themselves, archaeologically, they are invisible. This is what, hold on 1 second, let me bring this back up here real fast. This is what Dr. William D. Denver said, right? Dr. Israel Frankenstein states, the patriarchal stories are filled with camels and Philistines, anachronisms. They didn't exist in that era. Camels was not domesticated in the region until nearly 1000 BCE, right? Centuries after Abraham supposedly lived. This proved their stories are emergent, written centuries later by authors who projected their own reality back. Time served political purposes, right? Now, mind you, I always tell y'all, I don't know why my laptop keep doing that. I always tell you, I don't know why y'all can't see my thing over here. See this hand shit? Hold on. Let me get to my slide real quick, because I ain't even changing my damn slides. All right, bam. All right. So the conclusion of round one: you cannot credit a ghost with an invention, right? So he said Yashar'al invented monotheism. But if Yashar'al is nowhere to be found, any of the patriarchs are nowhere to be found in history, then how can they be credited with inventing monotheism, right? Now watch this. The only record, here we go right here. Let me change the slide. The only record we have of monotheism from these people come from 1208 BCE, right? This is centuries after Akhenaten. Centuries after Akhenaten. So how, again, can he claim, or how can he claim that Yashar'al invented anything if they come way after the person I say invented it? Not only way after, but centuries after. Akhenaten lived 1358. The first time Israel is mentioned is in 1208. Come on now, we got to stop playing these games. He's going to have to show these things, right? Hold on, let me go back. I went too far up. All right. So, now, and this is even too far up. Hold on one second. All right, so historical validation of the patriarchs, right? To start my question, we have receipts for sheeps and ditch diggers from 2000 BCE, but zero records for Abraham's army or Jacob's royal land grants, right? So in the Bible, Abraham had an army. In the Bible, Jacob had royal land grants, right? During this time. So how is it possible that we can have receipts for single sheeps and we can have receipts for ditch diggers and, you know, all of these things coming over, but we don't have receipts for Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, or Eber, the men that he say invented monotheism? He's going to have to deal with this, right? We have letters from the Amanna period. None of them mention Abraham, Isaac, or Jacob, right? We have letters from the kings of Egypt, the pharaohs of Egypt during that time, to actually people in the Levant. And they mention no patriarchals, right? So where are these patriarchs that invented monotheism? He's going to have to show that.
What's your response to that, Pitbull? Round one. Great round. Mystic. Let's see what the Pitbull got for you.
I gotta get
Let's get it.
monotheism.
Give me 1 second. Set your time. Let me know. Yes, sir.
Saying that if you know the Hebrew culture before they were called Hebrews, before they were called Jews, before they were called all the nuances throughout the generations, these Hebrew people during the Bronze Age, right? Scholars agree that Middle Bronze Age in the land of Canaan around 2000 to 1600 BCE. This shows explorers, right, of these different excavations have the same tides, to the nomadic people that the Ivri people were, and he's denying the fact that that's true. We can clearly see that the historians are saying that the explorers have gained understanding to the nomadic groups, seasonings mentioning the tent living, the clan-based kinship, non-urban lifestyle living people, because they migrated in so many different places it would be hard to track what he's saying right now, archaeology, and they agree on this, and that's what I have on my screen. But let's get into what the actual debate is about, though, because monotheism is definitely not what he said entirely. It is the belief in one said creator, right, of all things, not connected to any form of things that it created. So it's the belief in one God, right? We'll use that term for this debate. The belief in one God that was not created by anything, self-eternal, and invisible. That's the part that he's leaving out about what monotheism really is. And the scholars would agree with what I'm saying, and they would call what he is saying is monolatrism, which is the worship of the cosmos. This is what the sun disk god worship was, worship of the sun, right? So I'm going to show you that this was cosmos theism all through this debate. It's never in a time of this 7-year religion, or I would call it occultism, as the scholars do. This occultism where it was not about the cosmos. To be monotheistic, it can't be visible like YAHUWAH is. See, YAHUWAH by name in Hebrew means the self-existent, self-eternal one, was created from nothing because he wasn't created. He's always been the am, the I am. And we're going to show that throughout all this debate. So in order for yeah, I had to switch my screen over. Can y'all hear me good? Can y'all hear me good? I had to switch my screen over. I wanted you guys to be able to see. Okay. So again, this monotheism God cannot come with form, has no parts, has no reverbal, has no dependency, cannot be associated to the physical symbolatry as an object like it is in ATENism, right? That's what we're going to show all debate. And I'm using my first round to explicitly get into that part, because when we look at what the scholars say and agree on, let me see how much time I got. 2 minutes. What the scholars agree on across mainstream scholarship, religious studies, ANT studies, all of these different studies, monotheism by definition is only one ultimate deity exists, none others, right? The deity is uncreated, which the sun was created. We know that for fact, right? The deity is ontologically supreme, meaning self-existing, meaning not created, meaning by itself, none stands beside it. We know for a fact that in ATENism, the sole writer of it, we're going to show you the writings of that person that has other gods within his construct worship beside him. YAHUWAH never does this. The people that follow YAHUWAH, the agreement that they made to follow him, they understood that he required the worship of no other gods beside him. This is what true monotheism is. And this is the sole basis of this debate. Anything else is outside of the spectrum of what we're talking about. And this is what he's not going to be able to show, that the deity is not depending on physical form. Other gods are either denied or reclassified. Angels,
1 minute.
idols. So this is what we have to keep our scopes on in paying attention to what is being brought out in informational stance. And we have some scholars that we're going to get into in this next round, like Mark S. Smith out of the Near East Religion Hebrew Bible School, NYU in Princeton. We're going to get into what he views monotheism, because this is what this is a debate about. And I'm going to show you who started this truly first, because Atenism did not do it. It's the worship of something that is tangible, something that was created, something that goes away and comes back in the morning. Because when the sun goes down, where's your God? Somewhere on the other world serving some people that don't serve it. It's crazy to me. And then I'm going to also show that Atenism was forced upon the people, and the people did not agree. That cannot be monotheism. Thank you for your time.
Wow. That was a great round. Right now we're in the question and answer session. Humblemystic, you got one question.
I got one question. All right.
Yeah, one question. He got 2 minutes to answer.
Okay. If the patriarchs were monotheists, right, as my opponent, as my brother Pitbull said they are, right, then why does Exodus 15:11 say, "Who among the gods is like you, O Lord?" And if that verse admits other gods exist, then how can you, brother Pitbull, claim that Abraham's faith was exclusive monotheism?
It show the people that by questioning, I know his line of thinking, and it's totally why I'm going to destroy his understanding of what monotheism is, because he's asking me about what people did when the agreement that they made later on down the line, regardless what they were before they picked up what they started and brought to the world. So if I did something today and tomorrow comes, what I did yesterday does not mean I'm following the same thing I was yesterday. So people do change, and understanding does grow, because when they were elected, there was a process to showing what actually monotheism is, which is the belief in one God, but also an invisible, you can't see, non-tangible, and not connected to what it created itself, meaning it is solely dependent on nothing but its own power. It gives its power to nothing else in worship wise, and in the convolution of how it expresses itself to the people. See, this God is one, or this all, which I know it to be, but I'm using this phraseology for the debate so people can understand. But the all, which when we get into the Hebrew, that is the self-existent, self-eternal all, everything. It's inclusive to these things, but not existing or counting on these things to exist, because it created it, like your son dissed God. And I never made the statement that they started that way. I said that they brought that to the world. That's the topic of the debate. Who started it? That doesn't mean that particular people had
30
to start it,
seconds.
because the very religion cultism that you're referring to never started that way, and they didn't even appreciate the person that uplifted this in Akhenaten. He was erased as soon as his reign came down. They removed everything he did. It only lasted 7 years, and you know that.
Time. All right, Pitbull, you got a question for Humblemystic.
My question is, according to the definition of monotheism in its full entirety, because I'm going to show it later, so mind what you say, Humble. And I want everybody to listen to what I'm about to ask him for my question for the first round. By the sole definition, I just showed you the definition. It cannot be a visible or a tangible thing, nor can it be connected to what it created, meaning it cannot be in the facet like the sun, moon, the stars, a brick, a tree. It can't be any of those things when it's referring to the God of monotheism. It can't be in that. And I just showed that by definition. I'm going to furthermore prove that definition throughout the debate, but it's already a scholarly definition. So what I'm asking is, if what you're saying Atenism is, how is it that it's within the construct of the solars? It's a cosmotheolist type of belief system, meaning the sun is the God, meaning other things happen, like it goes away. So how do we call that monotheism by definition?
So, you are correct in the aspect that the ATEN symbol, right, was a major. The ATEN symbol was never a god in a sense. Before Akhenaten, it was just a symbol, right? That was actually an aspect of Ray. It wasn't even a representation of Ray. It was just an aspect of Ray. Akhenaten took that symbol, elevated that symbol to become a supreme creator god. So now the Aten symbol, which was once recognized as an aspect of Ra, Aten took it and then elevated it and made it a creator. So it's no longer the sun, it's now the creator that created the sun. And by definition, and before I land my plane, I just want to say we got to get this definition of monotheism right, because my brother Pitbull keep dancing around this definition, right? The true definition of monotheism insists on the one belief of one God only, rejecting. Here's the key part that my brother don't want to deal with: rejecting the existence or authority of any other God. That's monotheism. Henotheism is what we're going to deal with next round, is the belief in one God while acknowledging other gods, which his patriarchs seem to do. His whole culture, all of his texts seem to acknowledge other gods. There's nowhere in the eye, and I'm glad my brother Pitbull said he's going to bring pages from the eye, because there's nowhere in the eye where you see another God. I land my plane.
All right, Humble. Beginning of the
All right.
second round is on you.
Let me get my stuff settled up here. All right. So I'm ready when you ready, Fire.
All right.
All right. So my second round is called the henotheistic trap, the intolerance test. Right. Let's even say that this culture existed. These patriarchs even existed. Right. Can we firmly say that they invented monotheism? No, we can't. We must look at the primary source itself that my opponent most likely is going to use, because anyway, his first round, he didn't really name a scholar. He just said the scholars. He danced around a lot. He really didn't show you anything. But we must look at the primary source of the Bible that my opponent is using. My opponent do claim, my brother Pitbull do claim the Bible to be a primary source, right? Even when we look in the Bible, we see that, let me go over here. We see that my brother's culture is henotheistic, right? The internal contradiction, the Mosaic defense, preemptive, right? My opponent argued that the people were polytheistic, yes, but the prophet Abraham, Moses were true monotheistic, which received pure revelation. Let us look at that pure revelation. Exodus 15:1, which I asked my brother about, right? This is what it says in the Bible. Oh, who is like you, O Yahweh, among the gods, with an S, gods. He just said monotheism is only one God. We see an S on the end of this gods. S right here. We see an S right there. Psalms 95:3 declares Yahweh is a great king above all other gods. It don't say men, it don't say nations, it say gods, right? So let's go. This is henotheism. Yahweh is simply the MVP, most valuable player of the pantheon. He is the chairman of boards that still exist. The intolerance test. This is the most critical test for round 2. The true monotheism is inherently intolerant. It cannot coexist with other truths. It cannot burn idols or smash altars. Did the patriarchs pass the intolerance test? No. Abraham accepts a blessing from Melchizedek, a Canaanite priest of the god El Elyon. Abraham does not rebuke him. He tithes to him. Jacob swears oaths to the fear of Isaac, acknowledging the local deities of his neighbors. Come on now. Jacob swears oaths, right, to other neighbors because of that God, because he feared that God, and that's monotheism, right? They build altars on high places alongside Canaanite shrine. This is polytheism, right? You have to show me, right, where in this tradition these people solely worship Yahweh and not acknowledge any other gods, right? The archaeological smoking gun, right? It's a we have found inscriptions of Kilo Ajed dating to the 8th century BCE, long after the patriarchs. The inscriptions read, I bless you by Yahweh of Samaria. Yashar'al was a Canaanite fertility goddess. Early Israelites did not see Yahweh alone. They saw him as having a wife. If your one God has a wife, you are not monotheist. You are polytheist with a favorite couple. Now let's read some of the scholars. Mind you, he ain't bringing no scholars. Let's read some of the scholars' testimonies, right? Dr. Mark S. Smith, right? This is a professor of the Bible of NYU. The biblical texts themselves bear witness to the fact that the beginnings of Yahwism were polytheistic, or at best henotheistic. Yahweh was originally one God among many. Y'all see that? One God among many. He was likely a warrior god from the south who was integrated into Canaanite pantheon, eventually displacing the high god El. Right? We know this already. Dr. Robert Guinness, right? Chairman of religious studies. He's the chairman of religious studies, right? At Loyola University. Let's see what he say. Strict monotheism was not the religion of the patriarchs. It was the late development arising only during the Babylonian exile, 1,000 years after the supposed time of Abraham. The patriarchs were at best monolatrious. And then he trying to claim that ATEN was monolatrious? They're monolatrious, worshiping one God without denying the existence of others. Now, what is monotheism, my people? Monotheism is worshiping one God while rejecting the existence of others. Excuse me. Here we have a chairman of religious studies saying that the patriarchs were worshiping one God while acknowledging the existence of others. Come on now, we can't go against what the scholars say. Dr. John Day, a professor of Old Testament studies, Oxford University. Yahweh was originally a sub-deity. Come on now. What did he just trying to do? He just asked me a question about how did ATEN, right, symbol of the sun, right, become elevated as the creator, right? What does he say? He said Yahweh was originally a sub-deity. His deity is originally a sub-deity, right? A son of the god El, which is a Canaanite deity. How about y'all give that Canaanites back their religion back?
1
Right?
minute.
Effortlessly part of a polytheistic pantheon. Before being elevated, wasn't I talking about that earlier in my first round? Right? Elevated. His God was elevated too. He don't want to talk about that though. Right? Before being elevated, the biblical text Deuteronomy 32:8 originally states that the Most High divided the nations. Listen, Deuteronomy 32:28. The Most High divided the nations according to the number of the sons of God, assigning Israel to Yahweh. This places Yahweh as the subordinate in the hierarchy, not the sole creator. Here we're talking about a council of gods in Deuteronomy 32 and 8. So how is he the sole creator of anything if he's sitting around a council? How does this prove monotheism? I'll
Time.
land my plane with that.
Let's get it. Let's get it. That was a great second round. Humblemystic. Let's see what the Pitbull got for you right here. Hope all the judges are paying attention to all this information that's coming out. Wow. Let me know when you're ready, Pitbull.
Yes, sir. I got my question for him.
Nah, this your round.
Oh, okay.
This your second round.
You're right.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Let's get it. Yeah, give me 1 second. Get back over here to because I had a question ready for that. All right, let's start with these scholars. All right, I'm ready. You can put me in the bit. I'm in the bit box.
Okay.
Let me raise this screen up. I gotta go back to it. Yeah, I gotta go back to it. On my phone. What is this on the screen? Hold on. There we go. Alright. Okay, right here. So you can start my time at. So we was talking about scholarship. In the second round, I'm gonna show you what the scholars support what I said about what monotheism is and how he's failing to show this within the culture. Right now, he's fighting me on something that has nothing to do with the debate. But it's okay because Mark S. Smith, NYU, Princeton, Mr. Smith, he's a field specialist in ancient Near Eastern religion, Hebrew Bible. His key work is The Orders of Biblical Monotheism, the Early History of God. And what he is stating is that monotheism is not merely worship of one God. You feel me? Like I just described to you. The scholars are saying what I'm saying. Early Israel moves from monolatria to see my opponent doesn't know that. And he keeps saying that I have said that they started this way. I've never said that. This is being recorded. I know everybody is watching. I've never stated that. He's under that impression, but that's his problem. We're going to get it correct, though. So right here, Mr. Smith, that has done all these years of research and study on the historicity of these people that he's trying to prove don't exist. Well, why would they be paying this guy millions of dollars to lie to the world if these people didn't exist? But like I said, we don't have to get into that. Ontologically, monotheism is what they moved into. True monotheism denies the reality. He keeps saying the belief. The actual definition is the reality, meaning if you're saying that the sun is a god and it created itself, then you're out of your mind. That's not the reality of other gods, not just the worship. Let's keep moving. Now, we have another scholar, Jan Ashman, Egyptologist, Hattiesburg. So we know he big time studied into this information as well. And he's actually a study of Egypt in the religions and the memory. So his key works was Moses the Egyptian, The Price of Monotheism. So another man that is very studied in this information, that is agreeing with the definition that I have gave for what monotheism is. I have to drive this home because he's trying to restructure what monotheism is to fit what Akhenaten brought in Atenism with the sun disk worship. But in actuality, we're going to show throughout this debate that it's cosmos isms. These are isms of worship of the cosmos, just like the ancient Egyptians did, just like the Commissions did. This is something that was practiced throughout their culture. He used this as a political structure to bring forth a power that he has already seen somebody do, because his ancestors and the people that were before him was not doing this. This is not something natural to him, because he deals with nature. So to flip from something you can't see, something you can't build on, because he said it's not about faith, right? But the evidence of the things that the scriptorials will provide to you, right? Hattiesburg, what he stated was Atenism is not, it's not monotheistic. He also said Atenism explicitly a cult worship, not ontologically unique. It's something that was already going on. It's not something that we haven't already seen before, is what this scholar is saying. True monotheism inducts the transcendence, non-cosmic deities. But we know for a fact that in Atenism, it's all about the cosmetic, because the sun is the ruler of all things. But when we got other people on the other side of the fence in Kemet at that time, they probably would be fighting him. And this is why after he wasn't reigning anymore, they tore it down, because they already had Ra, which he mentions in his book, which my opponent denies. But we're going to show y'all it is. Y'all just stick with me. But I'm building up this understanding through what the scholars have said and what I know from the Hebrew manuscripts in the text, and even documented in some other writings that are outside of the so-called scholarly realm. But right here, this scholar we looking at, he said true monotheism is the induction of a transcendence, right? They don't show this. It's a non-cosmetic deity, but in Atenism, right? Listen, it's all through their information, because the sun is the number one supreme alleged deity in this belief system. So by nature, which they like to claim, and by definition of what monotheism is, right? You cannot put it in the category with monotheism, because it's already failing. Move on. Again, we have more scholars. Karen Armstrong, Comparative Religions. Her key work is History of God. So she know what these gods are and how they moving. What she confirms is monotheism is belief on one transcending reality. So this gets more into what the Torah is talking about from the Ruach sense, and how all these things came upon the people through thought. This is what she is saying right here. God is not a thing in the world like the sun. The sun is in the world. In monotheism, the God is not a thing of the world like in Atenism. You see? Early monotheism rejected images, forms, and localization. Thank you for your time.
Atenism versus Yashar'al. Who started monotheism? You got a question, Pitbull?
My question right now is, let me go to it real quick. I had something wrote down. Oh, matter of fact, I'll stay right here where I'm at. We have a scholar in the field of the history on gods and what they are, and the God in which you're calling monotheistic does not fit the category that this scholar, the scholar that I brought up before in Mr. Smith, these two both agree that monotheism rejects the images and forms, right, in the localization. So if that is true to the definition that you don't seem to know, how is it that ATENism is gonna measure up and be what monotheism truly is?
Um, so it's interesting. He quoted Dr. Mark S. Smith, right? Um, According to Dr. Mark S. Smith, monotheism is, again, as I was saying, it's the strict worship and belief of one God with the rejection that all other gods existed. With this strict definition of monotheism, we can easily look at ATENism and the religious reform of ATENism and see how it was the very first monotheistic reform in history, right? Mind ya, the brother just admitted that, his culture didn't start out monotheism, which then leads y'all to understand that he agrees with my second round when it states that the Israelites only gathered monotheism in the 6th century. Akhenaten was around in the 14th century. ATENism was here in the 14th century. Now I don't know if everybody understand how the line shifts work, right? But the 6th century BCE is way younger than the 14th century BCE. So if my opponent, which he's claiming, my brother Pitbull, if he's claiming that Yashar'al only gathered or only got monotheism in the 6th century BCE, then he's agreeing with me that Akhenaten had monotheism first, because that came in the 14th century BCE. And so that was the first part of my question, and then that was just a little add-on. I land my plane there, fire. I asked my question, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. All right. So hold on, let me cam up, y'all. So, oh snap! Sometimes my camera. I gotta do all this. So my question to you, brother Pitbull, is, what does Mark S. Smith say about the early people who practice Yahwism?
I'm gonna take part of my 2 minutes to address what he just stated at the end of his answer, and then I'll get into his question. Bear with me, because again, he's misspeaking for me. So please be listening to the antics and the tricks that he's using to try to avoid. He never answered my question at all. He didn't address that at all in referring to what monotheism is stated here by the scholars, and one of them he just referenced. So he can't go back and say, well, the definition that you're giving is not the actual definition, when one of the scholars that I just gave agrees with this definition. That's why I'm harkening on this so hard, because he don't understand what monotheism is. But to answer his question, this is why I say you don't know what monotheism is, right? Because the all is to reject the actual deity in itself, made these grievances with the people to actually force them to reject these other gods. And when they did not, they would be punished. It doesn't mean they're not still in their faith system. So you can't try to utilize the fact that they worship what you would consider other gods because the type of definition that you're using does not fit the full odds of what this means. So everybody must pay attention to that. He's not using the full definition of monotheism to point, because what he is calling monotheism does not fit what monotheism is. He's not using the full definition. He only saying part of it. But I have the scholarly sources on my screen. I just shared one scholar, two scholars that agree with my understanding. So I don't understand why he's trying to play this and spin this narrative as if because they worship other gods, that the God that they worship had already told them was nothing. They mean nothing. They are nothing. You are a fool if you worship those things. Verbatim is what he told them. So because they were in their own minds to do what they want through free will, you cannot use and say that they weren't still part of their cultural, and it was still a system that was started prior to Atenism. You can't do that by definition, brother.
Fine.
And this is why you're gonna lose.
Wow. Humble, you ready to start your third round?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let me turn my camera around. All right. Hold on. All right. So I'm trying to put y'all in this hand. I'm pretty bad. All right, bang. I'm trying to maneuver everything at once with my fingers. So I'm trying to put y'all in this hand so you can see my slides. All right. So this leads me to my third round. All right, so clearly, y'all, brother Pitbull don't want to deal with the historicity of his patriarchs. He keep claiming that had this monotheism before Akhenaten. It looks like he totally abandoned that. And now he's jumping to, okay, well, it developed over time, right? Now, if we agree that it developed over time, then undoubtedly this brother right here, Akhenaten, is the sole winner of this debate, right? So now, just like we gave those patriarchs a historical model to follow, which they failed, we gonna put my brother right here, Akhenaten, under a historical model, and let's see how he hold up, right? It say now we apply the core historical model to Akhenaten. The difference is absolute. While the patriarchs are rumor, Akhenaten is a sledgehammer. We have a verified reign from 1353 to 1336 BCE. We have his parents, Amenhotep III and Tyre. We have his wife, Nefertiti. We have his DNA in tomb K55, KV55. We have his biological facts. We have his body, right? The revolution, the intolerant test passed. Akhenaten passes the intolerant test that Abraham failed. The analogy: imagine a king who walked into imagine a king who walked into the Vatican City and smashes every statue of saints, fires, and popes, evicts the cardinals, and declares that only the sunlight is holy. That is what Akhenaten did to the Amun priesthood. The evidence is assured. This is not a subtle evolution. It was violent, state-sponsored revolution, right? The epicographic assures, right? Akhenaten set stonemasons to every temple in Egypt, and their job was to chisel out the plural word for gods, the Nedjaru, right? So Akhenaten, right, didn't just create this monotheistic reform, right? He didn't just say, all right, well, we just going to take this symbol and just say it's the sun and we just going to worship this, right? No, that's not what he did, right? Number one, Akhenaten actually went to every other temple, right, and literally scratched out the word Neteru. He literally dismantled every other temple deities. Why? Because he said only Aten is to be worshipped. Which goes back to who my brother quoted. I don't know why he would quote Mark S. Smith, right? The brother right here, I don't know why he would quote him, because he even say the biblical texts themselves bear witness to the fact that the beginnings of Yahwism was polytheistic, or at best henotheistic, right? So now let's go back to what we talking about. My brother Akhenaten here, what he do? He where I'm going back. Okay, he claimed total war on the other cults, right? Now my brother keep talking about this word cult right here. Hold on, let me go over here. My brother keep talking about this word cult, right? And he don't seem to understand that this word cult, literally the definition of this word cult, is a religious movement. So by definition, his culture is a cult. See, he don't seem to understand that when we looking at history, the only thing that separate the patriarchs from Akhenaten is that Akhenaten was a historical person. And Akhenaten came earlier. And so everything you see from his patriarchs, they got from right here. From right here. So if my brother want to change his stance and say, oh, well, they didn't start off monotheistic, they gradually turned monotheistic, I'm okay with him saying that. You know why? Because Akhenaten reigned in the 14th century. They became monotheistic in the 6th century after the Babylonian exile. So I'm okay with him saying that, because that undoubtedly, without a shadow of a doubt, proves my argument, right? So let's get to some scholars over here. Right? And please, by all means, brother Pitbulls, cite some more of my scholars, bro. Please, by all means. We gonna talk, we gonna see what Dr. Donald B. Rayford have to say, right? He's a professor of Egyptology at Penn State. Akhenaten's creation was the first, listen to what he say. He's a professor of Egyptology at Penn State. Akhenaten's creation was the first documented attempt to elevate a single deity to the status of a sole, unique, universal God. This is the first documented in history. He can't show you a stone or a book that was the first documented in history of monotheism, but we got one right here with Akhenaten, most definitely, right? It's a he annihilated the old gods to make room for the one, right? So he didn't just annihilate the old gods, but he say, not even do y'all not exist, but we taking over. Because y'all ain't supposed to be here in the first place. This is what Akhenaten did. This is what monotheism is. True monotheism. It's not just the fact that he worshiped Aten is what made him monotheistic. The fact that he went around to everybody else's temple and chiseled out their names. Right? And not only that, I beg to ask my brother, right? Show me a book that Eber has wrote. Show me a book that Abraham has wrote. Show me a book that Moses has wrote. Show me a book that any of these people you said invented monotheism have wrote. Right? This brother right here wrote the Hymn of Aten, an exclusive monotheistic book. And we're going to get to that in future rounds. Right? What else? How many time? I got 9 seconds left. It's a right here, Theological Manifesto, right? Written in 1350 BCE. All right, let's get it.
You ready, Pitbull? You're on mute. Okay.
All right, let's see. All right, you can start the time. So again, he keeps claiming that what monotheism is what he's describing to you. But I'm going to give you another scholar, Richard Swinburne, Oxford. He is a philanthropist, not a philanthropist, but a hold on, my screen. Let me make it big. My bad, y'all. He is a philosophical expression of religions. His greatest works, or his key works, were the corruptions of theisms, right? So what he is showing right here, and he gives his understanding that agrees with what I've been saying as well, that this monotheism is the one ultimate metaphysical reality. God is not a physical object like the sun disk God that the brother keeps trying to promote and is saying it's monotheism, but it does not fit the description of what monotheism is. A physical God would be infinite and configured, so it could not be a part of what the definition of monotheism is, according to this theologian and this scholar. He says he is supporting the idea that a non-physical God is what monotheism is. And this is another thing that the brother keeps leaving out. The optimization, Salakia. The ontological supreme in the supremacy of one deity. That's what actual monotheism is. I'm going to speed this up a little bit because I just really want y'all to understand what he is saying. And I went to the Britannica to get another, and the same definition came out. And it says, I asked it, what is that definition? It says monotheism is not just worship of a physical object. It is the God is and of following. It does not offline with monotheism if the God is the sun, a plant, structure, mountains, trees, animals, something that can be pointed to in space. Monotheism creates on the belief in the God who essence is unacquired. You can't see it, right? It's different from all else. And this is how I know for a fact, and the scholars would agree, the Britannica would agree, all of this is what we understand monotheism to be. So I really have to drive this point home to the listeners, because he's not dealing with the full aunts of what monotheism is. He does not see, he does not know, because he keeps trying to tell y'all that something can be worshipped monotheistically and be the sun, when that automatically eliminates it from being a monotheistic God. By definition, according to the scholars and the Britannica, here y'all can see now. We got some more scholars. Donald B. Redford, Egyptologist, and his key works was Akhenaten, the heroic king, and he describes Akhenatenism as a solar coat. See, that's what I mean by coat when I was saying this throughout the debate, but he didn't know that I was going to bring this portion of the truth to the debate, because in Akhenatenism, it is a worship of the solar, and this would make this cosmos theism. That's exactly what it is. Notes these things. Egypt religion structures. These are the structures of the Egypt's religion, right? The denial of a Davidic as what category? Look at this. Rutherford calls Atenism a solar coat, not a monotheistic faith, brother. It's not philosophically monotheism. at all. This is what the scholars are saying in Egyptology, so they study this historicity. J.P. Allen, same thing. Egyptologist, Brown University, Middle Egypt. He identifies Atenism as go back inside, baby. As a henotheistic faith, which he's trying. My opponent is trying to deny it and flip that narrative, but we see multiple scholars describing it everything but monotheistic, right? He embraces the fact that Aten as
One minute.
manifestation within nature. So again, the definition of monotheism, you cannot come and be a part of nature and be that God of that faith. Screen was a little small, gotta make it bigger, sorry. But he's really driving home the fact that this is manifestation within nature. You can't be monotheistic. Allen classifies that Atenism is a henotheistic, not monotheistic belief system. We got some more. Henry Frankfurt, A&E scholar. He is showing that the Egyptian, in the ancient Egyptian religions, describes Egyptian religions as cosmotheology. Alongside Atenism remains within cosmic theology. It never goes outside of this. This is one of his biggest findings. And they still debate whether they can prove that he was wrong till this day. He shows this in his work. Atenism never leaves cosmotheism. So how could it ever be polytheistic? And this is how I know this. The scholars agree with this because it's not in the range of what monotheism is.
Time, because I can't even see the clock up there now. You hear me?
Yeah. Who turned this to ask a question?
It's my turn to ask a question.
All right.
Hold on, look. I was waiting for fire. I thought fire said, "Hold on for a second."
Now go ahead.
I didn't know if he did or not. I was just seeing because it got a little quiet. It's all good.
Okay. If monotheism means the denying of existence, first off, okay, here's my question to you. Do we both agree that monotheism, right, also include the denying of the existence of other gods?
I would say yes, I do agree with that, but that has nothing to do with what monotheism is, and that's why we're having this debate because you don't know what it is. Monotheism is the belief in a non-existing God, right? With the denial, right, or the position that these other so-called gods are not category with the one true God. That's the difference in what you're saying and what the actual definition says, brother. So when you say what you're saying, that's partly true. It's partially true, but it's not the full answer on the definition. And the scholars that I just showed you, and everybody saw that they agree with what I'm saying, and they're saying that what you're calling monotheism is not in the definition of monotheism actually is this understanding of a deity that does not exist in time, space, and matter like the sun. So I'm showing two things at one time right now, Humble. I'm showing that the people that believed in this understanding of Yah, the self-existent one, the self-eternal one, was following a God that had rules that allowed them to imagine or think in their mind that was given to them by him that there were other things, but he showed them over and over and over with his power that they were nothing. He told them before they went into the covenant with him that they were in this covenant and they got to see things this way. Regardless whether they think that there are other gods or not, does not change what monotheism is. And that's what you don't know. That's what the scholars that I'm showing within this debate, by definition, is proving. It's proving that, brother. You cannot change the fact that the definition, what it is, and use part of the definition to try to solidify your claim. You have to show in all what the definition and utilize all the definition to bring forth the truth about what this actually is. And that's what I'm doing. That's what you're not. Because you're sticking to that belief in one God. But when we get into the text, like we're going to do later in this debate, we're going to see he was denouncing all of the gods. All of the gods were denounced.
All right, you got a question for him?
No, I can't ask me.
Yeah, I was on mute. I said the question that I have for you, by definition, which I have showed, and the scholars do agree with the definition, even the scholar that you referenced, right, Mr. Smith. So you can't say that what he's saying now, when I bring it and use it as well, that it's faulty or his scholarship is flawed because you just used him. You said keep bringing out your scholars. So what I'm going to ask you now is, when he agreed with my understanding of the definition, right, a scholarly definition of what this is, a sun disk could not be within the constraints of monotheism. How do you think the people should take that information, knowing that it's true, and utterly blowing out of the water that the sun disk God could never be monotheistic, nor the people that worship it?
So, when you quoted Dr. Smith, you quoted his definition of monotheism, right? And if we take his definition of monotheism and apply it to the ATEN before Akhenaten, then we could certainly agree. However, when we take that definition and we apply it to the ATEN after Akhenaten, then we certainly can agree. For the plain simple fact of the matter, the sun disk.
So for clarification, wait.
One second, I got you.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I just wanted for clarification really quick. Did you say that we can agree in both cases, right?
No, that's what I'm saying. Before Akhenaten had it, we could say, okay, well, the sun disk was just merely a symbol, right? Just like before Abraham and them, we could say Yahweh was a storm god. But after these people got these things, right, then by them elevating these things beyond the mere nature of what they was before to cosmological creator deities, then yes, Atenism is the first form of monotheism.
Well, if you're going to say that, you agree that Mr. Smith agrees with me when he says that a sun or a sun disk could not be worshipped in monotheism. So by virtue, that would be a fallacy to what you're saying in the debate. It would be incorrect.
Right. No. Listen. Can the sun disk be worshipped and that be called monotheism with it being worshipped because the sun disk is a symbol, right? After Akhenaten,
not just the sun disk.
Hold on one second. After Akhenaten, just like Yahweh, Akhenaten was elevated to a creator god, just like Yahweh was once a storm god and was elevated to a creator god. Yahweh was just elevated much later than Aten was.
Brother, that's the point. even though you're saying Akhenaten was a man, he can't be a tangible. That's the point. So when you agree with that statement, which the scholar that we both used, then now you take yourself clearly out of the category. But let's keep this thing going. I just wanted to show that and hope that you know that when you agree with this scholar, he's proving without a shadow of a doubt that Atenism could never be monotheism.
Let's start round 4. I'm a mystic. You ready?
We'll go round 4. I started round 3.
Let's get it.
Show me. All right, you can start my time. We was on Mr. Henry Frankfurt and what he was saying about the Egyptian belief systems and how he said that Atenism never left cosmotheism. So this is the worship of the suns, moons, and stars. And how ironic is it that the sole deity of this religion, not the sun disk, which my opponent keeps trying to do the Cupid shuffle towards and make it seem like I'm pointing this towards symbolatry, but even if I was, it would still be a cut, because by definition from one of the scholars that he agreed, and I showed another scholar as well to support that claim, as well as this scholar right here, Mr. Frankfurt, is agreeing with what I'm saying. Again, Atenism never advanced like Yashar'al did, like the Ivri people did, into full conversion of monotheism. And this is what I'm going to continue to show. But Mr. Frankfurt clearly says that they never left cosmotheism at all. They never got past it. And what his research also states and shows is that in ancient Egyptian religions, he explains that the Egyptian gods are manifestations of the cosmos, functions, which my brother Humble loves and knows very, very well. So I do applaud him on that. But he knows what I'm saying right now is very true. So what Akhenaten did was he tried to revamp one of the deities from over there, right? Which was not meant for monotheism because it is a actual tangible thing. This is what he's trying to get out of. You cannot take this existing thing and then say it transformates into something that is uncreated and now it's what it is in monotheism. That's not plausible. And this is what Mr. Frankfurt was showing, right? According to Frankfurt, this does not change under Akhenaten, like my opponent just said. He said it changed under him. Athenism is reformed of worship, right? Not a new understanding of reality. So that cuts what he just said in his question and answer round and in his last round. So I'm showing it to you right here, right now, due to the scholars. They're proving that Atenism never left cosmotheism, worship of the sun, like the ancient Egyptians had already been doing, right? So he's thinking that what I said from the beginning, he's thinking that because they're denying or saying that these other gods don't exist, and he's actually forcing these people to believe in the sun, that it is monotheistic. It's monotheism. When it's not, when we just literally looked at the information that says this creator God that is of monotheism cannot be a creation. So out of that understanding alone makes and breaks the argument of how could this ever be monotheism when the God that it's founded upon does not fit monotheistic principles. As he liked to say, I don't even deal with principles because the God of Yashar'al, y'all call Israel, does not deal with principles. It's governed by laws. But let's keep going what the scholar says. How many time? I got 3 minutes. Let's keep it moving. I'm only on slide 12. I had 30 clip over here, boy. Atenism is reformed of worship, not a new understanding of reality. The Aten remains the visible solar disk. See, this is why he said visible, because you can see it, right? You can see the visible disk. He is disproving that symbol, but also subject to circular of nations, and therefore remains part of the customs. So again, right here, he is saying that when they took the construct down, right, it was erased for a time, it was put back for a time only under his rulership. When they got rid of Akhenaten, everything that he tried to infringe upon those people came down. This is why I called it a cult. Because in monotheism, it is a choice of the people to follow this, and this is just what the nation of Israel did. They entered into a contract in agreement, in agreeing with the Creator, with the God of that religion, which is monotheistic. So we gotta know what is being stated. ATENism does not. Why my screen ain't flipped? My screen ain't working.
Yeah, we can't see the next slide.
Why is that? That's crazy. Oh, it's about time, bro.
Yeah.
All
Hold
right.
on, give me a second. Hold on, I'm trying to find the right one because I'm working with two little small boxes, y'all. Forgive me. Okay.
I think his time ran out, bro. I think. Do you have an option to give him 2 more minutes?
Yeah, I'm gonna give him
Okay.
2.
Y'all can see my screen now, though, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
We can see your screen, Brody.
Uh,
Listen, I'm not even over here paying, but that's my fault. I ain't even paying attention to the comments. I ain't even know his slides wasn't changing.
yeah, I didn't either. I had looked down there and saw that. But okay. How do I? Why am I? Wow. Okay. All right, there we go. So we right here. I think I'm too far ahead, though. I can't. I keep trying to click the damn thing, but I'm hitting the comments. Okay. Is that the first slide? No way. Hold on, y'all, man. This is tripping.
That's better. Comments turned on.
Yeah, that was kind of distracting too. Hold on, give me 1 second. I gotta. There you go. Let me see. I can see better now. I just got home. I still not the right one, bro. I gotta make it bigger. Can't make it bigger. All right. It's not gonna get bigger.
You still going? Let me go push you.
All right, I got it. Sorry for the time constraint. All right. So there's no denial of divinely as a category. Frankfurt was establishing in Egypt, religion never denies the reality of other gods. Like I was telling y'all, the definition has to do with the reality of that God alongside the denial of others, not the belief or understanding that they do exist in that sense from the people. And this is what he is showing right here. Exclusively does not equal this understanding of what ontological rejection. This word ontological is subjective. It's a subjective understanding to what this word actually means. The God remains confined to the cosmos in Atenism. And this is what he proved. That's how we know it's not monotheism. You said time?
It
Oh, you said
still got a minute.
it said 1 minute. Okay. All right. Now I can't see nothing on my screen. Okay, now I can see it. Y'all can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Sorry about that, y'all. So what Henry Frank was showed that the Egyptian religions never left cosmotheism. Their gods were always cosmetic powers within nature, not a transcendent, non-physical being. Atenism merely elevated one cosmic force. That's it. Forced it to do not create monotheism. So it never created monotheism because what was already happening was already happened prior to him coming up with this cultism construct, according to the scholars. It doesn't fit the criteria of what monotheism is in its fullness. I forgot I gotta change it up here too. I'm looking at it on two screens, y'all. What happened? I ain't no telling how long y'all couldn't see it. Is that my time? How much time I got?
15 seconds.
15 seconds.
Divinity was reformed by the cosmos, it was not sovereign over it. What this means is Egyptian deities infringed from the cosmos principles, not from an all transcendent will like YAHUWAH did. So this does not fit the criteria to be monotheistic.
All right. I'm ready when you are, Fire. I'm ready when you are. So I wanna all right, as soon as he put it on here. All right. So I want to address some things my brother Pitbull said in his earlier rounds. I don't think, I think my brother Pitbull just found some quotes. I don't even think my brother Pitbull knows some of these people, that he's quoting. And here's why I say this, right? Because the people that my brother is quoting, such as James Allen, right, such as Mark Smith, they actually wrote books on this, right? And when you go to the book of the Great Pyramids, written by James P. Allen. Hold, let me turn my camera around. Then I'm gonna turn it back around when I'm ready to go into my debate. So when you look at, some of the books written by James P. Allen, one of his most notable, The Pyramid, right? He highlights exclusively, when he's talking about the Amarna periods, he talked exclusively about Akhenaten and his reform. And he, in his book, right? Now this is James P. Allen, the same guy that Pitbull trying to quote. In his book, The Great Egyptian Pyramids, when talking about Akhenaten, stated, and I quote, Akhenaten's attempt to bring in Atenism was the first monotheistic tradition in human history. This is in his book. So when we quote in these scholars, we got to make sure that we just not saying, things that, we quoting them. We making sure we putting their words in their perspective places, right? We adding value to their words, not taking away from them, right? Don't forget, James P. Allen also wrote a book called The Great Books, The Sacred Books. And in his journal called The Sacred Books, he have a section called Atenism, the hymns of Aten. In this, he highlights the phrases out of the books, "Also God, be whom there is none," and a couple others. And he illustrates how this is parallel to the Bible and how the Bible got it from them as to set up a part of their own cult 600 years later, after Aten was already gone. So after I got that out the way, right? So let's be frank. When we quoting these scholars, let's quote these scholars. Let's not misrepresent their words, right? Let's talk about their ideals and what they actually brought to the table. So here we've reached a pivotal point and primary source, right? That closes every loophole. The historical context, right? The Great Hymn of Aten. We was talking about the Great Hymn of Aten, right? I thought my brother Pitbull was going to do some more deep dive research. Maybe he'd have changed up, his debate presentation a little bit. But let's get into it, right? So now here we're going to talk about the Great Hymn of Aten. The date of the Great Hymn of Aten is 1350 BCE, inscribed in the tomb of Ayah in the Amarna tomb 25. They claim it contains theology and exclusivity that the Israelites would not achieve until the Babylonian exile 800 years later. Isn't that what one of his scholars just said? Right? James P. Allen just said that. Right? Let's get into it, right? The textual comparison, right? The linguistic and thematic parallels between the Hymn of Aten in 1350 BCE and the later Psalms 104 compiled centuries later proves textual transfer, right? Not independent of invention. The Hymn of Aten 1350 BCE. Let's see what the Hymn of Aten say. Let's get into the Hymn of Aten. Right? When you set the western horizons land in the darkness in the center of the death, right? Let's see what Psalms 104 say. This is the Hebrew Bible, by the way, right? Since we talk about different translations of the Bible, right? So let's go to the Hebrew Bible. What does it say in the Hebrew Bible? You make darkness and it is night when all the beasts of the forest creep about, right? These two things share parallels. This came right after this. Well, let's see what the next line say. Every lion comes out of his den, all creeping things bite, right? The young lions roar their prey, seeking their food from. They both talking about the lions, right? Let's go deeper into what the Hymn of Aten say, the key passages that make the Hymn of Aten strictly monotheistic, right? Let's get the Hymn of Aten, right? It's a so God beside whom there is none. Y'all heard me say that already, right? Let's see what else it say, right? It say, you create the earth according to your wish. You alone, being alone. There is no Elohim here. There is no council of gods here. This says you create the earth according to your wish. You alone, being alone. He's talking about the great Aten. Right? This says creative singularity, reject the need of a divine counsel or help from other gods like Yahweh did. You know, Yahweh needed help to create the earth, to create the universe in 6 days. That's why I say Elohim. You see what I'm saying? Let's get into it. It say, the tongue of the Sirens and the Nubians, you distinguish them. Universalism, the God of all nations and races, not a tribal deity. This right here.
1
Now,
minute.
what do it say in the Bible? Right? In the Bible, it say, I am your God. I'm not everybody else's God. How can you be a divine creator God, and how can you be the first of monotheism if you're not even everybody else's God? See, Aten was everybody's God. He said, I'm everybody's God. I'm not just your God. Let's get into it. It said, you set every man in his place. You supply their needs. Providers, the active will of overseeing individuals. So all of these are attributes of the Aten. He keeps saying, oh, it's just a sun disk. Clearly in the hymn of Aten, it don't show that. Clearly in the hymn of Aten, it shows that he was a creator deity that created all things. Which elevates him above just the symbol of what it was used for before, which we talked about. Right? Now, as we just seen, not only do your Bible say that your culture was henotheistic, your Bible also plagiarized from the hymn of Aten, and it didn't even do a good job because it kept the
Time.
henotheism in there. Let's get into it, y'all.
Question and answer. You got a question,
Yeah. Give me 1 second. We gonna get back to this. We gonna get back to these patriarchs because he keep talking about his He keep talking about his culture. Oh, well, we had this. If Abraham and them had this way before Aten, where is the proof?
The proof is right here. The proof is right here, sir.
That's say we
These
can't read
stones
that.
right. Hold on, brother. You asked the question. I got 2 minutes to respond. You can speak with me while we go over this, but right here, we have a Semitic stone with the very inscripts of Yahuwah on here. Right here for you. And I'm going to show you where these come from here in just a second. We have another ancient stone as well. Same thing. You see the man in the house, outside the house. This is the Hebrew pictos right here. This is outside of a picto. You know what they call these, right? Petroglyphs. These existed before the writings of the man you speaking of, right? This predates his writings, showing that he could not have written these things first. Surely, right? Akhenaten couldn't have written these things first if they We're gonna get some dates on these real quick. These are dated back, Proto-Canaanite inscripts, 1900 to 1500 BCE. You hear me? Habaru. This is found in Sinai, the same mountain that Yahuwah is the God of. So you're cut right there. People, please pay attention. Please pay attention. This is a false claim that what he's saying came first. When I got it right here, you see what it's saying. That is a false statement.
Time. Pitbull, you got a question for Humble?
I want to ask Humblemystic, how does something that already exists, that is already being worshipped as something else in another pantheon, switch from one pantheon, changed into another? A man writes a book about it, his own belief system, right? Because the Torah, that what I just wrote you, was written with the finger of God, according to the Torah itself. The man who perpetuated this religion writ what you just wrote to us, and he also involves other gods alongside him within this information. So how is this fit monotheism by definition, brother? The full definition that we both agree, the scholars agree, is that these objects that you're calling God could never be the one true God of monotheism.
Okay. So number one, you never showed, and this is what I was just dealing with in my fourth round. The brother never showed anywhere in the Humblemystic where there was other gods. I just showed y'all, right? Which only if y'all look at the Humblemystic, right? They only have 7 pages that remain, right? And so out of the all 7 pages, they're only talking about ATEN and what ATEN provided, right? And so just like Yahweh, who which once started off as a storm god, right? And was adopted by these people who were nomadic, right? And then they took the attributes and then he was elevated as a cosmic creator deity, right? Now, even I mentioned earlier, right? When we talk about the Humblemystic, let's just not talk about the Humblemystic like it was just the Humblemystic. The Humblemystic predates the Torah by 1,500 years. Let's not forget that. The Humblemystic predates the first inscription of an Israelite in history by 700 years. This is just a Humblemystic. So how can we then sit here and say, oh, well, how can this be ascribed to something when it comes older? How is it older when everything we have proved that it's younger? I land my plane with that.
Well, we here to the 5th and final round. Pitbull, you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. Pitbull,
Yes, sir. I'm ready now.
your time on.
We're gonna bring out some more scholars since he's saying I ain't showing these things. Well, I just showed that in that very book that he claims, the Humblemystic, that is a monotheistic book, it mentions other gods, right? But I want to continue to show that however he tries to structure his argument, it does not fit what monotheism is, right? It does not fit, right? In Gohard Van Red, 1904, 1971, Old Testament theologian. He's a theologian of the University of Hattiesburg. And what he said through his exhaustive research and study, the God of the Hebrews is no part of nature, which would go right along with what monotheism is requiring, right? It's not generally or any way, shape, form connected to the cosmos and not depending on it, like Atenism is. It's not the same. It's two different things. He's trying to compare them, but they don't have and share the same fundamentals of structure in the orders of it. Instead, Yahuwah stands over and against creation as its what? Its orchestrator. He is the one that says these things will happen by his word, unlike Atenism, which is the Son, created by Yahuwah in the biblical Hebrew text. So this could not be the same thing in comparison when they don't believe the same thing. It can't be a copy of something that it doesn't reference the same thing, because this tangible thing is not self-existence. It's not self-existent. This is cosmo doctrine. He also says that the Israelites' faith reject monotheism. No, Salaki, I said that wrong. Mythical religion where gods arise from nature forces, sun, sky, fertility, time cycles, right? The sun is on the time cycle as well. So again, he cannot say they started something that it never is, it never becomes, it never was. How could they start monotheism if it never was monotheism? And this is what we really got to look at. We got to look at the fact that what they were doing in worship, right, by force, nonetheless, we can definitely see in the historicity, and I'll show you that too, that these things were forced upon the people, right? Why does matter? Egyptians and monotheism systems, gods are evolving from nature or in nature. In the Hebrew thought, nature is not divine at all. It is created. This is a understanding that the scholars have shown. This is non-negotiable. And this marks the true start of monotheism when the Hebrew people take on this oath with the Father of Israel, the God of Israel, and cling to his rules. When they break them, they're punished for them. We don't see these types of things in Atenism. Flip my screen real quick. That's the only thing I don't like about it. Take forever to flip your screen, man. Again, we got Dr. Childs, 1923-2007, professor, Old Testament, Yale Davidic School, right? And what he is saying is, he argues that the Hebrew scriptures, right, overtly go against scripts in a way that mythologically think. So you can't have this type of thing where the sun is your God and it is the head of the pantheon, the fertility and time and cosmo forces. Yahuwah instead commands these things. He's over these things. So these are two different things. And one of them fits what monotheism is, and one of them don't. And we know for a fact that by the worship of it being a sun in itself, right? And then the perpetuator of this is a man. So these are two tangible things within nature that cannot fit what monotheism is by the scholars that my opponent has agreed to. He agreed to these scholars and what they say are true. Again, flipping my screen takes time, man. Takes time. And why this matters is cosmos theism systems. These cosmos is scared. Davidic forces are nature forces. The Hebrew culture does not support this in understanding. Nowhere in the biblical text can you see this. I got about a minute. Let me get down here. Get on up the road.
We're gonna add 1 minute for the screenshot.
Doubt, no doubt.
Now I don't know if you guys can see what I have here on my screen, but we're gonna dive into the actual Habakkuk. He wrote, and he mentions Ra, Hakab, and rejoices in the highlight in his name, Su, who was, is, old and living forever, right? But these are two different other gods. So this is three gods tangled and intertwined into one when he rejoices with it, right? So we can clearly see in the ancient Egyptian literary volume 2, the New Kingdom, page 96, that he is doing this. And our closest evidence that Atenism was not monotheism, but Atenism crossed out of the names of other deities, but left some in it. So this could never qualify as monotheism, because these deities was worshipped beside him. He said it wasn't there. I went and showed you right here in the ancient Egypt literature volume 2. You can go look this up. The New Kings, page 96. You can go and look at it for yourself. He says it's not there. It's on the screen. And that's the problem with what we got to understand. Nothing that he showed you guys tonight has proven that Atenism was even, Salakia, that monotheistic was found in Atenism in the way that it has to be found by definition. The all of Israel says it all throughout the Hebrew text, and that's the scholars I showed you earlier. This is what they're affirmating. This is what they're confirming, that he required no other worship of anything beside him. He alone did all things. Thank you for your time.
I'm ready when you are, Fire.
Let's go. Let's get it.
All right, so this our fifth round. I'm going to address a couple of things my brother said in his last round, and he keep making the same mistake, right? So he'll show you something, and then he not describing to you what he's showing you, or he'll show you a scholar, and then he taking his words out of context, right? So he showed us two tablets on the screen, right? And so, well, nowadays we got the ability to real time fact check, right? So because brother Pitbull wasn't telling us what he was showing us, he was just showing us some stuff. I decided to go fact check what he was showing us, right? And so behind me and a couple of other slides I got, is talking about those two clay tablets he put up there. And it's interesting to note that on those clay tablets are just letters, right? Archaeologists use those tablets, right? And those tablets are in museums. But the point of those tablets isn't to show that Yashar'al started monotheism or even have any of the patriarchs' names on them. It's just to show how the early proto-Canaanite script looked. The people who excavated there doesn't even know what that say. That's why he can't tell you what that is. All they know is that they're letters. These was excavated in 2002. Someone from, hold on one second, from a major archaeologist discovered 2022 the Canaanite ivory comb in Lamesh, right? The artifacts is a small ivory comb, right, found in Israel. The script, it is inscribed in the earliest form of the Canaanite alphabet. That is the only thing that this is talking about. these things are used just to talk about the alphabet. They're not used to date any kings or any people or talk about any religious reform, right? So that's another way the brother, I caught him up being disingenuous right there, right? So another way I'm gonna catch him up being disingenuous, right? The brother, hold on, give me 1 second. The brother quoted what's his name? James P. Allen, right? So even James P. Allen talks about the exclusivity of monotheistic worship in Egypt during the Akhenaten reign. He even go as far as say this is where his people get it from. James P. Allen is one of those scholars that say this is where his people get it from. So he keep bringing up scholars. I don't think he's read their books. I don't even think he know who they are. But he keep bringing up scholars who greatly disagree with his point, right? But let's get into, deep into, this fifth round, right? So in my round one, hold on, let me get this real quick. Hold on. Let me shut this down. All right. Let me get this real quick. Hold up. All right. Where is it? All right, bang, right here. Okay, so in my round one, I talked about his patriarchs. I talked about how they had zero archaeology, right? How they left zero materials, and he didn't even back up. He just left that claim standing there, right? On the other hand, right, in my third round, I showed who Akhenaten was. I showed his archaeological statues. I showed where his city was. I showed what he did. I showed he was a real person. I showed who his grandparents were. There's no debate that Akhenaten was a real person. So in round one and round three, what I was showing was the fact that on his side, invisible people can create real things. And on my side, even if we do take his people to be literal, right? Akhenaten existed way before they was even put on the land, before they was even mentioned, before anybody even knew who they was, right? The verdict: the foundation of Yashar'al collapses under history. You cannot credit you cannot credit invention to an invisible people who cannot be proven in existence with verifiable figures hold in the patent, right? Bang, let's compare the text, right? So my round two, my round four. My round two, I talked about his text. My round four, I talked about my text, right? Also, I want to real fast. So again, I went to what he was just talking about, where they talk about Shu. And mind you, I told y'all they only have 7 pages, right? So I actually, he talked about, they got Shu. So people don't understand that language, right? Verbiage, the language we use, right, is consistent, right? We say rain. Rain is rain. So if he's talking about Shu, right, which is moisture, right? Clearly he's not. If he's erasing Shu as a god, and then he then turns around and talk about Shu, clearly he's not talking about Shu in the same aspect as when he was deifying Shu. Clearly he's talking about rain. This is the problem with people who's not studied in a tradition. They'll just see something. Oh, well, what about this? Clearly he's talking about rain. And when he's talking about ray, the rays of the sun, clearly he's speaking literal there. But see, you're not studied in a tradition, so I wouldn't expect you to get it. So let's go talk about my second and fourth round, right? So the second round I talked about his Torah, right? Is henotheism all throughout the Torah, all throughout, right? And we show, right, by Smith, somebody he quoted shows you that it's henotheism all within the Torah. I showed you ATENism, where it was strictly monotheism, right? No other gods is in the ATEN. I urge y'all, please go read the Hymn of ATEN. Please go read it, right? God stands with a divine council. I showed y'all that, right? So ain't no way this can be monotheistic if God stands with a divine council. Whereas though in the hymn of Aten, Aten stands alone. There is no one else. Go ahead, y'all. Thank y'all so much.
You cut yourself there, boy. Because you just admitted to, you definitely admitted to it being other things like rain, and you prove what I was proving and showing through the scholars, the whole debate, how this is cosmo theology. Oh, I hear some background. How this is cosmotheism that Akhenaten came up with. He stole it from other people in Kemet and in Egypt and forced it upon the people. I showed this throughout the debate. All the things you say I did not show, I actually did. I don't know if you was listening and taking notes, but we can clearly see where all of the things that they did were tangible things, and I showed over and over and over it does not fit what we know monotheism to be by definition. When you put these principles that are the sun, the ray, the moisture into this type of construct, it becomes what we know as cosmotheism. Everybody has to accept that fact due to what we brought out tonight by definition.
You got a question for him, Pitbull?
Oh yeah. My question to Humble is, again, and I'm going to end my debate with the question that he's been avoiding all night. And notice how he avoids this question, because he agreed earlier during the debate that one of the scholars out of the 3 to 4 scholars that I showed that proved Atenism wasn't monotheistic, it was actually cosmotheism, right? They agreed to these things, right? So how do you rectify that the scholars, and even one that you utilize, and we can see it all through history of the searching and studying of this information, that's what it was called. Some even called it monolatrium, right? And some called it polytheistic, as I showed in this debate. So therefore, how do you rectify what the scholars are saying, also what he actually wrote into his own information, where he acknowledged the moisture, as you called it, which would be a council, like you're trying to claim YAHUWAH did, but in the Hebrew, that's not the same. So how do you rectify that? What the scholars are agreeing to, agreeing on.
Got you. So I want to point to a lot of the scholars that you use. So interesting that 2, maybe even 3, but 2 I know for sure of the scholars we both use. And here's the issue, and I said it in the debate, is the fact that you obviously didn't read their books. Because even when we talk about Dr. Smith, he say y'all got that from Aten. Even when we talk about James P. Allen, he say y'all got that from Aten. None of these scholars say Yashar'al had it first and Aten wasn't around. They all said that Aten was a monotheistic reform first. And then the people of Israel came along in the 6th century BCE and reformed it. So that's number 1. Number 2, with the definition of monotheism that we both defined, right? We both clearly saw how Atenism is monotheistic in nature. We talking about Shu. When you was bringing up Shu, you didn't even take a second to read it. And of course you wasn't going to read it, because when you read it, you would have seen it brings about Shu. It brings about the rain on the land. Is that not, if we want to read it in a cosmological sense, is that not the same thing as wisdom being there, right? God bringing about wisdom. So here's the thing, y'all, that I want y'all to see very clearly. My brother Pitbull is throwing stones at a glass house. The issue is he's standing inside of his own house. He's saying, how can this be monotheism? How can this be monotheism? But he don't realize every shot he's taking is breaking down his own culture. Because this is what they did. I agree. All of those things he named is not monotheism. But when you look inside that Torah, when you look inside that Bible, that's what they talk about. Do Joshua 28:2 not say that your ancestors in those days were worshiping other gods? So then now how does Brother Pitbull turn around and say, no, they wasn't? Who do you biblical believers believe? Do y'all believe Brother Pitbull, or do y'all believe y'all holy word of the Bible? I land my plane with that. Go ahead. I don't even see the time no more. I wasn't even paying attention. My bad, y'all.
Yeah, we were going for it. So we'll do what? Close?
You can close out.
For sure. Now, how is it that everything he just said, the scholar said he did not show that? What he did was run around all night around the fact that the definition of what monotheism is, ATENism does not hold up to at all, because it does not renounce anywhere in the book, the 7 pages, only the worship of that. They scream that, but we know all of the people did not worship ATENism, only the people he was rulers over, and they were forced to do that. So that's another factor in how it cannot fit into what monotheism is by scholarly definition and by scholarly source and research in what defines monotheism directly as a practice. The fact that you say they were worshiping other gods, again, like the Torah says, Isaiah 45:5, I am the only all, or Elohim. Besides me, there are none. So therefore, when you say these people are worshiping something that the Father or the all or the Elohim that they have already chosen has told them are nothing. They're nothing. In the fact that you're relating to the definition as if it says the belief in other gods that are not the same or not the supreme God is against the rules, which that's what it states. But you're saying that as if that is the qualification to make it what it is, which it's not. That's the problem, because the rules of that invisible God is that you cannot serve any other Elohims. That is what monotheism is shaped around. So when you say what the historians say, ATENism was several things, but it never reached and it never progressed past the point of cosmotheism. Not once did it ever pass that point. And again, when he was taken down as ruler and king, they removed all that he had set up. So we know for a fact that this was not worshipped by all people. That was a lie. So everything that you stated was coming from people that agreed that monotheism never fit what he did. He said that it was the first. The scholar that you claim, Smith, oh no, that was Ford. You claim that Ford said that this is where the Hebrews, you never showed that to the people, not one time. You skated around that And you never showed that to nobody where he said that in any book or any writings. That was a lie. So I hope everybody was paying attention tonight and saw that I was able to prove that what he is calling monotheism and Atenism was never monotheism fulfilled, and it emphatically was cosmotheism in its entirety.
So, so to the people, I hope y'all was paying attention. I hope y'all bought y'all pens and paper like I asked y'all to do. Because what we seeing in this debate is what I knew we was gonna see. Brother Pitbull ducking and dodging. You know,
You got
It's
he trying to
closed.
do
The
the
debate
Philly
is
shot.
closed. It is closed.
Yeah, I gotta say my last closing statement, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So what we seen was Pitbull ducking and dodging. You know, he never addressed the invisibility of the patriarchs. He just kept saying they was doing stuff. He never brought out what they was doing. Here's the archaeology on what they was doing. You know, this is the time period. He never not once touched anything of that. And that's why I brought out that historical model, because I knew it was gonna kill him, because I knew he wasn't gonna stick to it, because he couldn't. Because he it's not historical. That's number one. Number two, he brought up, we brought up some of the same. This is why I said in the debate, this brother did not read the scholars he was putting on the screen, because he didn't know them scholars had books out that was saying what they were saying about Atenism, that was saying that Yahwism came from Atenism, it was a later reform from the 6th century. Right? He didn't know that Dr. Smith said that. He didn't know that James P. Allen said that. He just went to the parts where he was talking about Yahwism. Oh, well, this is what Smith say about monotheism. Yeah, but what did he say about Atenism? See, he's not going to say that. He's not going to be honest. See, that's why I had to bring it to y'all. Because not only did he define monotheism, but he said Atenism fits this criteria. Now, mind y'all, this is not Brother Humble saying this. This is the scholars that he quoted saying this. So I'm just saying, man, we got to do our due diligence in the scholarship and keep their words honest. We can't twist the words to make them say what we want them to say. And I hope, not only the judges, but the people out there watching. I hope y'all saw him try to do this. And I just want to say before I land that I emphatically, undoubtedly showed that Atenism was first with monotheism, and Akhenaten came before any of the things or the ideas that Yashar'al ever presented by 1,000 years. I land my plane with that, y'all.
Never showed it, brother. Never showed it.
Would y'all take any questions from the comments or the people up here?
Absolutely.
I knew Capone would come and ready to roll.
Right.
You should have plenty elbow because he told a
I
lot of
tried
lies.
to follow the debate. I gotta, y'all gotta forgive me. I'm watching the game, and I was watching another thing too. But my question is, to Humble, is there a glyph, a hieroglyph for ATEN? For
No.
ATEN?
ATEN was forbidden. You couldn't make no image of ATEN.
So there's no glyph in the metal netta for the ATEN?
When we speaking about before Akhenaten, we would find the glyph for the symbol of the
No.
ATEN.
No, because you said
After
that
Akhenaten, hold on one second. After Akhenaten, right, there is no glyphs that represent the cosmic god of Aten. No, that was forbidden.
Okay, but you said that the hymns to Aten was written before the Book of Psalms.
Yes.
In the hymn of Aten, the name Aten is there. So that's why I asked, is there a glyph for Aten?
Aten wouldn't have, number one, ordered the people to write a glyph to Aten. Akhenaten wouldn't have done that. And number two, um, in the glyph of ATEN, the glyph would have literally just been the wave, right? Or the word for Najur singular, not plural.
Right, but how do we know that that's ATEN that they writing that hymn to? It
Because of
seems like,
time periods, brother. I got you. Because of time periods, right?
but that still
So,
don't say it. Just because, so if it's during the time period of Yahwahism, like you saying, and we
uh-huh.
find a writing, and that we gotta say that that was to Yahweh just because it's during that time.
Well, isn't that what they did with Exodus? Is Yahweh not in Exodus? And they
But it identifies it. That's what I'm saying. There's a
so
word
there's a
for Yahweh.
so you
That's
can
what I'm
find me
saying.
a shrine. So you can find me a shrine of Yahweh,
No, Yahwahism is fake.
huh?
That's fake.
That ain't.
Ain't no
Can you
such
find
thing
me?
as
Can you
Yahwahism.
find me a shrine of Yahuwah?
No, what I'm saying, there's no such thing as
Can you
Yahwahism.
find me
That's
any
a
temples? Can
theoretical.
you find? Here's what
That's
I'm
a
getting at, Capone. Hold on one second. I got you. Here's what I'm
The
getting at.
Tan Stella.
The same reason, the same way idolatry was forbidden, right? Centuries after Atenism,
No,
right?
it wasn't.
Idolatry was forbidden in Atenism. So they
It
wouldn't have
was.
made a carving to Aten.
How can you have what is an idol in Atlantis when everything is tangible in the sense of it's the sun ray? What do you mean? Everything
Right.
it's a
So
multiple
that's
gods.
where
You're believing in
and so
multiple
that's where
things.
you right. So that's where you fell in this debate, right?
No.
Because you keep saying look at that, because you keep saying the I-10, right, and you keep
hmm
comparing it to the symbol, you holding it before Akhenaten.
No,
We can
no, that's not what
agree.
the
We
scholars
can
say.
agree
That
that before
no.
Akhenaten, hold, I got you, people. We can agree that before Akhenaten, before the 14th dynasty, I mean the 18th
hmm
dynasty, right?
hmm
When you seen the relic, the Aten, right, on a nectar's head, right, that was symbolic. We can agree to that.
Regardless,
After
regardless,
no, hold on. After the reign of Aten and during and after the reign of Aten, when we see the Aten, right, it is not symbolic. It is talking about a cosmic God. Just like if we
that's
see Yahweh in the
exactly.
Ugaritic, hold on. If we see Yahweh
hmm
in the Ugaritic, right, it's talking about a storm deity. If we see Yahweh in the
Yahweh.
Torah, it's talking about a cosmic
Yahweh
God.
is not in the Torah. Yahweh is not in the Torah. That's the problem. See, you're
So now Yahweh is not in,
intermixing and
can you show me
intertwining.
Yahweh is not in the
No,
Torah?
Yahweh is not in the Torah. It's not going to say
Show me
Yahweh
Yahweh is
anywhere
not
in
in the
there.
Torah.
No, you show me Yahweh is in the Torah. What you're going to
Of
go and
course.
get is a YHWH, right? Which is a Greek mythologized added to Yod Hey Wahey does not depict
Now you have to show us that.
Hold on, brother. In the Hebrew, it does not depict Yahweh, and this is rejected by several scholars. And that's the point. The whole debate, I was showing you that what you're calling gods to Yahuwah are not gods, and he explicitly showed
So
this and
who
told
is
this to his
Shamash?
people. Hold on,
They
because
fighting
he
in a double box.
explicitly showed and told they're his people that followed him that these things were nothing. So the fact
So
that you keep trying to say that the ray in the sun, all these things work in unison, that's oneness. No, that's cosmotheism,
I'm gonna
like I
throw my
showed
third
throughout the
round
debate.
question at him. I'm gonna throw my third round question at him. Who is Shamash?
Shemaz is a figure that was created.